You're listening to the WrestleHavoc Podcast on YouTube, where we discuss everything in and outside of the squared circle. We talk all that goes on in the realm of WWE and AEW every week. And now, here's your host, the one that will give you a reality check on pro wrestling, Flamin' Ricky DeReyes. This is the WrestleHavoc Podcast.
What's up, everybody? It is Flamin' Ricky DeReyes, right here on the WrestleHavoc Podcast, here to give you guys my Friday Night SmackDown review from February 17th, 2023. Of course, it is the go-home show for tomorrow night's Elimination Chamber pay-per-view event in Montreal. It is going to be an absolutely fucking insane show. And overall, I thought the show was pretty fine. Realistically, the only thing that mattered on this show, to be quite honest with you, was Sami Zayn and that amazing standing ovation that he had in Montreal. Literally giving you one bit of hope that Sami Zayn is actually going to be walking out as the champion tomorrow night in Montreal at the pay-per-view, which I still do not think will happen. But holy shit, that was an absolutely amazing moment that happened in that closing segment. We got a lot of other things to talk about. Of course, we had Gunther defend the Intercontinental title against Madcap Moss in a match in which you knew Madcap Moss was going to be losing. There's no chance in hell that Gunther was going to drop that IC title to Madcap. But I will say, I envision that match as a squash, but Madcap did have a lot of offense in that match. But also, we had Ariel Helwani on the show, and that ruffled some feathers on Twitter, in which I will be talking about. Of course, I'm talking about Tony Khan and Ariel Helwani's back and forth on Twitter, which was absolutely hilarious, and why I think this is fun as hell as a wrestling fan, because I live for shit like that. But I will be giving you guys my thoughts on who I side with, which, honestly, I don't even know if I choose sides, because when it comes to the whole Tony Khan and Ariel Helwani situation, I mean, both sides had their ups and downs. Let's be honest with ourselves. We can't just choose one side over the other. But there's very logical reasons, and there's two sides to every story. But I'll talk about that later on, right here on the SmackDown review from February 17th, 2023. But before I get on with all of this craziness, make sure to like and subscribe to the WrestleHavoc Podcast right here on YouTube, in which we discuss everything in and outside of the squared circle. Make sure to like and subscribe for more content, and as the frickin' referee would say, ring that damn bell for more notifications. Also, the WrestleHavoc Podcast is also available on audio platforms. It is available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Anchor, and Google Podcasts. So if you guys want to listen to the WrestleHavoc Podcast in audio format, it is available on all of those platforms. Quick side note here, as you guys probably may have known and noticed, I didn't give you guys a Raw review nor a Dynamite review this week. I actually missed AEW Dynamite this week, and I still haven't watched the show. I've seen a couple of highlights. I saw the MJF segment, which I thought was pretty good. But from what a lot of people say, it wasn't really the best Dynamite. A lot of people were actually saying Rampage was a better show than Dynamite, which is to be expected. Dynamite is not going to hit every week. I mean, I still think Dynamite is relatively a good show, but if you really think about it, this week, especially this day, when it comes to the fans' opinion, it was not a good look. It was not a good day to be an AEW fan. Let's be honest about that. But honestly, I'm not one of those fans that think it's doom and gloom for AEW just because they got a low rating. I mean, it's obvious. One of the, these weeks, there'd be a high rating and there'd be a low rating. At the end of the day, if you're a fan watching this show, if you're a fan of wrestling, you should judge a show if you like it or you don't like it. What I mean by that, judge a show by what you believe how the show was. Judge a show the way you think the show was. Did you like it? Did you not like it? But don't judge a show. Don't judge a show by just talking about the rating. Look, I trash a show if it had a low rating if the show was trash. Just look at Monday Night Raw from 2 years ago. Monday Night Raw 2 years ago was probably the worst show on television. Let's be honest with ourselves. But let's be real here. Raw has gotten a little bit better. SmackDown has gotten drastically better. I thought SmackDown, throughout these past couple of weeks have been great. Could it still do some work? Yes, but I'm not shitting WWE like I have been before because I trust the current regime. But at the same time, just because a company does the low rating, doesn't mean, it's all doom and gloom. I don't understand what the mentality of these fans have. And let's be honest with ourselves. We got to judge a show whether we like it or not. Don't judge a show just because of its rating. That's it. If a show I liked got a low rating, I wouldn't give a single fuck at all. Okay? If the show was trash, I'd laugh at the rating. But, I didn't watch Dynamite, but a lot of people weren't really that big of a fan of Dynamite this week. I mean, let's be honest. Look, Dynamite is not going to hit every week, just like Raw doesn't hit every week, just like SmackDown doesn't hit every week. It happens. Like, relax. It's not a big deal. But, yeah, man, a lot of people were on the anti-AEW bandwagon this week. I don't fucking understand why, but I'll talk about that on episode 9 or 8, I believe, of the WrestleHavoc Podcast, which I will be uploading tomorrow morning, hopefully. I will be giving you guys my Elimination Chamber predictions. Yes, I'm going to be giving you guys my predictions for the Elimination Chamber and a lot of other stuff right here on the channel. So if you guys want to check out all that stuff, be on the lookout right here on the WrestleHavoc Podcast on YouTube. But let's talk about SmackDown. I thought SmackDown was a fine show for what it was. Again, the main thing about the show was Sami Zayn, and that's it. That was the main focus of this show. If you tuned into this show, best of luck. The only thing that you were probably interested in was Sami Zayn, and that's it. Nothing else. The Gunther and Madcap Moss match was pretty good. We had the Viking Raiders versus Drew McIntyre and Sheamus again, which I thought was actually a pretty good match as well. But again, Sami Zayn was realistically the main attraction for the show. The crowd in Montreal was absolutely fucking awesome as well. We had Natalya and Shotzi versus Ronda Rousey and Shayna Baszler in the opening match. The crowd in Montreal absolutely despised Ronda Rousey, and rightfully so. Ronda Rousey sucks, in my opinion. But overall, not a bad match for what it was. Of course, we're leading towards the Women's Elimination Chamber match, in which the winner will face Bianca Belair for the Raw Women's title at WrestleMania. Newsflash, the winner of the match is going to be Asuka, in my opinion. But overall, nothing special here. We had it was a fine tag team match, nothing really special. We got a side headlock takeover by Natalya on Shotzi. We get a kick to the head of Shotzi. Ronda tags in. She works on Natalya. We got a bunch of "you can't wrestle" chants in Montreal. Shotzi, not Shotzi. Shotzi tags in, and then Shayna tags in. We got a rolling elbow by Shotzi. Shayna then works on Shotzi. Shotzi then goes for a double underhook suplex. After that, she applies a submission on Ronda. Ronda then gets taken to the outside by Shotzi Blackheart, but then we got a suicide dive by Shotzi on Ronda. We got a discus clothesline by Natalya on Shayna onto the outside. Shotzi off the top goes for a crossbody on both Ronda and Shayna. Once we're back from commercial break, Shayna is in control over Shotzi. Shotzi then tries to tag in, but then Shayna pulls her back. She hits a right on Natalya, but then Ronda on the apron tries to hit Shotzi, but then Shotzi hits a DDT on the outside of the middle of the top rope. Shotzi goes for the enziguri, and then Natalya tags in. We get repeated clotheslines by Natalya, followed by a German suplex after that. Shayna then misses the high knee, but then Natalya counters and hits the powerbomb. Shayna then applies the Karabuta clutch, but then Natalya goes for the discus clothesline once again. Ronda then goes for the blind tag. She misses the crossbody off the top, but then Natalya applies the sharpshooter on Ronda. Natalya, it looks like Ronda was actually going to go to the bottom rope, but then actually Natalya dragged her to the middle. But Shayna Baszler interferes. Shotzi then tags in, but then Natalya and Shotzi want to go for the double team attempt, but then Shayna drags Natalya to the outside. And then after that, Ronda goes for a takedown and then applies the armbar on Shotzi Blackheart, and Shotzi taps out, and the heels get the win in this opening match on SmackDown. Overall, primarily, of course, this was Natalya's hometown of Montreal. But was this match really special? Not really. I was not really that invested in this match, to be quite honest with you. I'm not really the biggest Natalya fan. I felt like Natalya is, I'm not going to say overrated, because Natalya is very talented at what she does. But I feel like these past couple of years, like, Natalya, in my opinion, personally, has been very, very, very irrelevant. But I will say this. She's very talented at what she does, but in my opinion, she's been very irrelevant, in my opinion. But overall, nothing really special. Of course, this is to build up for the Elimination Chamber, or the Women's Elimination Chamber, tomorrow night. We have the first of two video packages, basically dissecting the entire history of Sami Zayn and the Bloodline. This first video package went from the beginning, which started in April after WrestleMania, which is crazy to think, all the way just to a couple of weeks ago when they had the Tribal Court of Sami Zayn. Fantastic video package, by the way. If there's one thing that WWE is good at, that is their production. WWE are literally the masters of this shit. They are so good when they have video packages. This video package is no different. We get a Hit Row promo. Well, not necessarily promo. They go for a rap, and it's probably the worst rap I have ever seen. No disrespect. Look, I like Top Dollar, I like Ashante Adonis, and I like B-Fab, but that rap was god-awful, by the way. And let's be honest with ourselves. Hit Row is nothing without Swerve Strickland. If Swerve Strickland was in the group, we wouldn't be having this discussion right now. But the direction, there's literally no direction for Hit Row, and they're just not interesting whatsoever. It's just not the same without Swerve. But basically, a couple of notes on the rap. They talked about how last time they were in Montreal and they showed no love. And they talked about how, this is where Brett screwed Brett, all that type of shit. And then the lights go out. The lights go out, and all of a sudden, it's Uncle Howdy and Bray Wyatt. They are in each corner of the ring. One corner you have Bray Wyatt, and the other corner you have Uncle Howdy. And both surround Hit Row. Both actually enter the ring. Bray goes for the mandible claw on Top Dollar. Then Bray goes, Uncle Howdy goes for the Sister Abigail on, I believe it was Ashante Adonis. After that, Bray Wyatt gets the microphone and says that, you're welcome, Montreal. Now that he is in control of himself and his family, he wanted to be the first to tell us this. Tomorrow night, Bobby Lashley, Brock Lesnar, whichever one walks out alive, they should run. So are we teasing a match between most likely Brock Lesnar and Bray Wyatt? I have no idea. What does Brock Lesnar and Bobby Lashley tie into this whole Bray Wyatt scenario, to be quite honest with you? Honestly, I'm kind of quite intrigued. I'm very intrigued on what they are doing. I think if you really think about it, if they were going to do, which they are, the Brock Lesnar and Bobby Lashley match at the Elimination Chamber show, what is really there for Brock Lesnar or Bobby Lashley to do? Most likely Brock Lesnar. That I believe there was a rumored match that was, supposed to happen at WrestleMania between Gunther and Brock Lesnar, but I believe those plans have scrapped. I'm not sure. That's just pure speculation on my end. But, if they're going for Gunther versus Sheamus, which I think they will do for WrestleMania, give Brock Lesnar to Bray Wyatt. That's actually a very interesting match. I believe that was supposed to be the match for WrestleMania 32 many years ago, but those plans got scrapped. I believe they started building towards that match at the Royal Rumble when, if you guys do not remember, the entire Wyatt family basically took out and eliminated Brock Lesnar from that match. But that's another story for another time. But Bobby Lashley and Brock Lesnar tied in with Bray Wyatt. That's very interesting. Very interesting feud right there. My best bet is that they're going to either have a fuck finish in which they have basically one of the Wyatt, Bray Wyatt just cause one of them the match, or they would have Brock Lesnar beat Bobby Lashley, and then they'd, start teasing Brock Lesnar versus Bray Wyatt at WrestleMania. That is what I think, but hey, man, they can go to a different direction. I'm not sure what they're doing, but if what they're doing is Brock Lesnar versus Bray Wyatt, it's pretty intriguing in my opinion. Here's one match that was actually very good in my opinion. Of course, I'm talking about Drew McIntyre versus the Viking Raiders. This was actually a pretty good match. Now, you guys know me. If you guys have been watching the SmackDown review, in which it's doing very well in views, by the way, I talked about how I'm not really that invested in the Viking Raiders, in my opinion. I just feel like I don't want to say they have no direction, but I'm just not really in tune in what they are doing. I just don't care. And at this point, I'm really tired of the Sheamus and Drew McIntyre versus Viking Raiders feud. If it's just to give them something to do, I get it, but at the same time, I'm just not very into it. But that is to say, this match was actually relatively good. Sheamus misses a bro kick. Ivar misses a spinning kick. This was like right in the beginning of the match. Sheamus then takes out Ivar onto the outside. A brawl breaks loose after that. Drew McIntyre then sends Eric to the barricade, but then both Ivar and Sheamus are in the ring. Sheamus takes Ivar to the outside. Once we're back from commercial break after that, Sheamus goes for a clothesline on Ivar after. Drew goes for repeated clotheslines, and then we get a back elbow by Drew on Eric. We get a belly-to-belly throw by Drew, followed by a neck breaker by Drew McIntyre. Both exchange shots, and then he manages to go for the Michinoku driver after that. We get a cover and a near fall. At this point, Sheamus is the legal man. He works on Ivar, and then Ivar goes to the top. Sheamus then comes in, and then he proceeds to pick up Ivar, but then he drops down Ivar off the top. And after that, once we're back from break, Drew and Sheamus goes for the double 10 beats of the bow ring, which looked absolutely sick. Sheamus goes to the top. He drops a knee, and then we get a near fall, or a cover into near fall, I should say. He drops down Eric, but then Eric catches Sheamus when he tries to hit the bro kick attempt, but then Eric drives Sheamus down with a powerbomb. We get a cover by Eric into near fall. Eric then goes to the second rope. He gets caught with a knee. Sheamus then tags Drew, but then Drew sets up the Claymore kick, but then Eric goes to the outside. Drew, once both Raiders are on the outside, Drew goes for the somersault. The Raiders are in control, but then Ivar goes for a slam on Drew off the top. And then we get a cover and a near fall when Sheamus interferes. But Eric sends Sheamus shoulder first onto the post. We get a spinning kick by Ivar. Ivar goes to the top, and then he hits a splash on Drew. We get a cover and a near fall. At this point, the Raiders take Drew McIntyre, but then Sheamus comes in with the bro kick, which then opens up Drew McIntyre for the Claymore kick. And then we get a cover, and the babyfaces get the win over the Viking Raiders. Overall, pretty good match. I really enjoyed this for what it was. It was not, again, I'm not really that interested in this feud, to be quite honest with you. I'm just, to be quite honest, I'm not really that interested. But hopefully this is the end of all of this stuff. But overall, not a bad match whatsoever. We had part 2 of the Bloodline and Sami Zayn story, which, again, fantastic video package. They also showed Ariel Helwani, of course, Ariel Helwani being from Canada, Montreal. Overall, I think Ariel Helwani is great. Of course, he does those BT Sport interviews with wrestlers in the WWE like Seth Rollins, Sami Zayn, etc., etc. If you guys haven't watched the interview that Ariel Helwani did with Sami Zayn, I definitely recommend you guys to give it a look, because I think the interview that he did with Sami Zayn, Sami was literally the most open guy and the most humble guy I have ever seen in any locker room, and Sami Zayn is definitely a gem. But the story was not really Ariel Helwani showing up on SmackDown. The story was what happened on Twitter. And I really wanted to talk about this because this had me laugh my ass off. So, you guys know the story between Ariel Helwani and Tony Khan. Both of those guys had an interview. Ariel Helwani kept poking the bear constantly about CM Punk and the Elite, all the whole drama. And then Tony Khan says, I can't talk about it. And meanwhile, there's an investigation going on. So Tony, if you think about it, couldn't talk about it. But at the same time, you had Ariel literally just ask him fucking 7 times about the whole situation. But then on the other hand, you also had Tony Khan, getting asked other questions like Bray Wyatt. And then he says, I can't talk about it. So Tony Khan was dodging a lot of questions. And then all of a sudden you had the next day, And then you had Ariel Helwani basically say, oh, yeah, it was one of the worst interviews I have ever done because he kept on dodging my questions. So then you had Tony Khan. Fast forward now. Ariel Helwani shows up on SmackDown, and you have Tony Khan on Twitter tweet, "You're a fraud" at Ariel Helwani. You're as legitimate of a reporter as at Tony Schiavone 24, which is Tony Schiavone's account. Hashtag AEW Rampage. That was funny as hell. Now, this caused an uproar on social media saying it makes AEW look bad. I get it. I totally understand. And then you had Ariel Helwani reply back, "Thanks for watching, old friend. Can't wait for our next chat. Also, don't listen to the snowman, Schiavone. You're a legend in my books." And then Tony Khan replied, "Good luck with the unbiased journalism." So that's a nice back and forth by both Ariel Helwani and Tony Khan. What are my thoughts on this whole situation? Look, when it came to the whole situation between Ariel Helwani and Tony Khan, both are right and wrong at the same time. Tony, for all the shit that he gets, look, it's well documented Tony Khan is not great with the media. He just isn't. He doesn't really give anything away, if you really think about it. But if you're in the shoes of Tony Khan, of course, there's an investigation going on when it comes to CM Punk and the Elite. And you have Ariel Helwani, who, let's be honest, is, I don't want to say a shill, but let's be honest, he is paid by BT Sport, and BT Sport is a partner with WWE, and he did show up on SmackDown. So if you really think about it, he is a paid shill. If you really think about it, look, Tony Khan he kept on dodging a lot of questions besides CM Punk and the Elite. It's pretty much well documented. We all know that. You guys got to actually watch the full interview. But I'll say this. Ariel Helwani kept on poking the bear constantly at Tony about the whole CM Punk situation. Because there's one portion in that actual interview in which Ariel Helwani just constantly was like, "Oh, you can't just give us this, you can't just give us that. Come on, just give us something. Even though after Tony Khan, after the first question about CM Punk and the Elite, after that first question and Tony Khan was like, "I can't talk about it," Ariel Helwani still kept on poking the bear about CM Punk and the Elite, knowing that Tony Khan was going to say, "I can't talk about it." But we're not going to deny the fact that Tony Khan was also asked other questions in that interview, kind of like, Cody Rhodes, Bray Wyatt, all that stuff. And he was like, "Oh, no, I can't talk about it." We also can't deny that factor as well. So if you really think about it, both sides are right and wrong at the same time, and both have valid reasons to be upset with one another. But the fact that Ariel Helwani literally the next day just blasted Tony Khan like that, in my opinion, was absolutely really stupid, because of the fact that if this had happened with Triple H, if anything, he just had an interview with Triple H, and for a fact that he wouldn't have never said the things he said about Tony Khan towards Triple H. So shit like that kind of pisses me off. And this is coming from somebody that actually likes Ariel Helwani. I think Ariel Helwani is great. I don't think, he does any harm to anybody. I think he's a great person. I think he's great when his interviews. He does great work. He's fantastic. But again, he does come off as a kiss ass. Okay, and a lot of people in the community come off as kiss asses. People like Ryan Satin, Peter Rosenberg. I'm not really the biggest Peter Rosenberg guy, but I've never met the guy, so I really can't say much about him. A lot of people do not like Sam Roberts, but I actually like Sam Roberts. I think Sam Roberts is great at what he does. I love his podcast. He creates really interesting discussions. He's fantastic. I think he's great. But people like Ryan Satin, I'm not really the biggest Ryan Satin guy. That's just my opinion. He's not. I'm not really the biggest fan of the guy. But again, you do have people that are paid by WWE that are kiss asses. But that's the nature of the business. There is bias in wrestling journalism. There just is at the end of the day. On both sides. It's not just WWE. It's also on AEW at the same time. It's just the nature of the business at the end of the day. I'm not choosing sides here. I just thought the back and forth between Ariel Helwani and Tony Khan was just funny as fuck, in my opinion. And at the end of the day, me as a wrestling fan, I live for this shit, okay? But whatever. We got a backstage interview with Rey Mysterio. shows us a video package of Santos Escobar giving up his mask as a sign of respect. Talks about how Rey Mysterio talks about how he knows how that meant a lot to Santos Escobar and how that meant a lot to him. And, he says that competition is always welcomed here. And then Karrion Kross comes in. It says, once upon a time, he wanted to be a father. But after he saw the lack of respect on his son's eyes, he thought to himself, maybe that's not for him. And he didn't have to hide his face in shame in a mask for being a pathetic excuse for a father. And then Ray's face, he just has this pissed off look at his face like, son of a bitch. All right. After that, we got Asuka versus Liv Morgan. Both lock up. We got a side headlock takeover by Liv Morgan, followed by repeated rights by Liv, followed by a German suplex by Asuka. We get a sliding kick by Asuka. Raquel Rodriguez comes out, and then Nikki Cross comes out as well, bothering Michael Cole, which is hilarious. Asuka then goes off the second rope. Liv goes for an oblivion off the top, landing Asuka face first, which looked brutal as fuck. We get a cover engineer fall. Once we're back from break, we get a running knee by Liv Morgan, followed by a kick by Asuka, cover by Asuka, and a near fall. We get repeated kicks by Asuka. Liv goes for a slap, but then Liv fights back and later goes for the enziguri. We get a running knee into the corner by Asuka, followed by a shotgun dropkick by Liv Morgan after that. After that, she takes down Asuka, but then later gets caught. Liv then escapes. Asuka then misses a kick, followed by a roll-up by Liv. Then she goes for a near fall. And then Asuka applies the Asuka lock on Liv, but then Liv taps out and Asuka gets the win. After that, Carmella comes in, attacks whoever won the match. Natalya then comes in. You kind of get the gist. Every woman involved in the Women's Elimination Chamber match kind of gets involved, and they just beat the shit out of each other. But everybody ends up taking each other out, but then Liv Morgan and Asuka actually end up facing off towards one another at the end after this. But who do I think is going to be winning the Women's Elimination Chamber match? Find out in my Elimination Chamber predictions tomorrow on the WrestleHavoc Podcast. We got Gunther versus Madcap Moss for the Intercontinental title. There's one thing that WWE is doing fantastically well. I mean, they're doing well in a lot of things, but they're not perfect all the time. But if there's one thing that WWE is doing very well at is the Intercontinental title. That title went from dog shit to absolute prestige. Gunther has made the IC title much more relevant. He has made that title relevant again. And at the end of the day, that's what's important, because when Vince McMahon was running things, there were times where you would have WrestleManias in which the Intercontinental title would not even be on the line, which is fucking crazy to think. Because if you think about back in the 80s, the IC title was literally treated almost on par with the WWF title, and then even in the 90s as well. But in the 2000s, it started to go downhill, and then the 2010s it went even further downhill. But of course, 2016 you had Miz's IC title run, and then now you have Gunther with the Intercontinental title. I think Gunther is doing fantastic things with the IC Championship, and honestly, the best match scenario for Gunther at WrestleMania. It's not safe. It's not really difficult to assume what his match is going to be. Honestly, Gunther needs to wrestle Sheamus at WrestleMania. That's all I got to say about that. Gunther needs to wrestle Sheamus at WrestleMania, and Sheamus should beat Gunther at WrestleMania, because then after that, Gunther can go straight to the main event scene, because we all know Cody's going to be the WWE champion. But I'll say this. You don't give the title to Gunther immediately. You have Cody have a lengthy title reign. Have him have a lengthy title reign until the time is right. Because once he drops that title, the rocket strap is going to be on Gunther. No doubt about it. But we had Gunther versus Madcap Moss for the Intercontinental Championship. I expected this match to be a squash match because I'm not really the biggest fan of Madcap Moss. I think he's a great wrestler, but I think one of the biggest problems with Madcap Moss is the fact that he really has no personality at all. And he's just generic. That's the issue. He's just very generic. But they're trying to give this man a character. They're trying to, of course, pair him with I believe his real-life girlfriend, Emma. So they're trying to give him somewhat of a character. And I believe that he is getting heelish tendencies. It looks like they're going to turn this man heel, which, honestly, if you think about it, it could possibly be the best way scenario for Madcap. I mean, he's a great wrestler. It's just he needs direction, and that's what he doesn't have right now. But hopefully after this match, they start to give him somewhat of a direction. But a couple of notes on the match. We get an overhand shot by Gunther into the corner. We got a takedown by Moss, followed by a side headlock takeover by Gunther. We got a shoulder tackle by Gunther. Moss fights back. Madcap then goes for the side headlock, but then we get a shoulder tackle. We got a bunch of shoulder tackle exchanges by both. We got a chop by Gunther, followed by a boot. Then we get a cover into near fall. Gunther goes for the side headlock, but then Moss takes Gunther into the corner. Madcap goes for the spine buster, and then we get a cover and a near fall. Then Moss goes for the shoulder tackle, taking Gunther to the outside. Once we're back from break, both exchange shots. We get repeated chops by Gunther, and then he tries to powerbomb Moss, but then Moss escapes. Then, after that, he goes for the neckbreaker attempted by Moss, but then Gunther applies a sleeper hold. After that, Moss then counters a back suplex, followed by a running lariat by Moss. After that, we got a chop by Gunther. Moss goes for a vertical suplex, followed by a swinging neckbreaker after that. We got a cover and a near fall. Later on, Gunther goes for the overhand chop. Gunther then goes to the top, but then Moss also comes up to the top. We get a chop by Gunther, taking Moss down. Gunther actually manages to go to the top, but Moss comes back up and hits a fall-away slam on Gunther. We get a cover and a near fall, but then Gunther catches Moss into a sleeper hold. And then we get a bunch of ole, ole, ole chants by Montreal. You got to love the crowd of Montreal. And then Gunther goes for the powerbomb, and we get a cover. And Gunther, as pretty obviously to think about, Gunther retains the Intercontinental Championship, which, of course, was the right decision to make. I mean, I think if there's any time we should talk about Gunther dropping that title, it should be by WrestleMania. But at this point, it's pretty obvious he was not going to drop that fucking thing to Madcap Moss. You kidding me right now? But overall, great match. I'm very surprised. I didn't expect that match to take as long as it did. But overall, fantastic match. Here we got now the final segment of the evening. We got the creme de la creme. This amazing, and I mean amazing, ladies and gentlemen, this amazing Sami Zayn segment. If you guys haven't checked out this segment, it's probably one of the best segments so far all year. Let's be honest with ourselves. This whole Bloodline storyline has been the best storytelling that WWE has done in a long as time. Everybody is hyped up about Elimination Chamber tomorrow night. It's even bigger to the point where it's bigger than WrestleMania at this point. I know that may sound far-fetched, but the match between Roman and Sami is so much bigger than than what a lot of people think it is. This match, Sami Zayn, is so over right now. It's not even funny. This guy is super popular. And after this segment, even though I think it's the wrong decision to make, because I still think they're going to do the Jey Uso turning on Sami Zayn angle, a part of me coming out of this segment, I genuinely believe, honestly, I'm being 100% honest with you guys, I genuinely believe there is a slight chance that Sami Zayn could walk out as the champion. Honestly, I really want Sami to win this thing, but I know deep down in my heart it's not going to happen, because most likely the plan is for Jey to come in and turn on Sami. And then, of course, you got the Usos versus Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn at WrestleMania, which is still the right direction to go. We got two stories happening simultaneously right now. WWE last week on Raw started the Cody Rhodes story with that amazing Paul Heyman segment. Keep in mind, they started that last week with Paul Heyman. Of course, then this past Monday, they had Sami and Cody just face off, and Cody give his blessings to Sami Zayn, saying, hey, go get him, because I want to see you at WrestleMania. Shit like that is what makes it good. And I know I love how a lot of people still think that the fans are going to turn on Cody Rhodes. But keep in mind, we're living in the Triple H era, and last I heard, Triple H actually knows how to book a babyface better than Vince McMahon. That's all I'm going to say about that. But this segment was was absolutely amazing, and it really gave you a glimpse of what Montreal is going to be like, not only for Sami Zayn, but what Montreal is going to be like for Roman Reigns. Roman Reigns is going to get the John Cena ECW One Night Stand 2006 fucking treatment. You guys remember One Night Stand 2006 when John Cena entered in hostile territory at the Hammerstein Ballroom and got booed the fuck out of the arena by all the ECW faithful? It's going to be that level of heat for Roman Reigns. He is going to get nuclear level heat tomorrow night. And you know what? I'm down for that. I'm absolutely down for that because it is the right way to go. Roman Reigns hasn't looked so dominant as he is right now. And the story that they are telling is going to be amazing in the match. Again, the key proponent when it comes to this story is the story itself. And that's what people really need to pay attention about. It's not about the wrestling in the ring for this particular story. It's about the story itself. And the story is not revolving, surprisingly, with Sami and Roman. It's focused more on Jay and Sami. I want you guys to keep that in mind. And the heat that Jay is going to get, if he shows up at the Elimination Chamber, is going to be insane when he turns on Sami Zayn. But let's talk about this Sami Zayn segment. Of course, I forgot to mention, Sami Zayn's old theme is back. Worlds Apart is back, which is fantastic, by the way. And the crowd, of course, is singing his theme song. We get a standing ovation by the entire crowd in Montreal. It literally took Sami Zayn 6-7 minutes to just stay silent before speaking one word. The crowd was just so loud and so loving of Sami Zayn that Sami Zayn just stood there in the ring, just you know what, I'm gonna soak it all in right now. And then you have a bunch of chants like "You deserve it," and then you had one point in the entire segment in which you had "Ole Ole Ole," which was freaking amazing. If you guys haven't watched this segment, please watch it for what it is because this segment was something special. We get a standing ovation, of course, by the crowd. We get a bunch of "You deserve it" chants. And then Sami finally gets the microphone. And Sami says, "This is the time of year that everybody points towards one thing, and that is WrestleMania. Year after year, that's the most important show in many people's eyes." And that's true. But for him, tomorrow night at the Elimination Chamber, it is a once-in-a-lifetime moment for himself. And he screams Roman Reigns. And this was the best part of the whole entire segment. Sami speaks in French. He speaks in French. "Tomorrow, you're in my fucking house." He speaks those exact words in French on live broadcast television on Fox. And after that, he says, "Tomorrow, it's not just Roman Reigns versus Sami Zayn. Tomorrow night, it's Roman Reigns versus Sami Zayn and the entire city of Montreal. And Roman is going down." Drops the microphone, standing ovation by the entire crowd in Montreal, and the show ends. If anybody on social media is complaining about this storyline, you're clearly not a fan. Because this is what the wrestling fan craves for every year. Sami Zayn is the most over guy, not only in WWE, he's literally the most over guy in the entire industry. There, I said it. He is the most over guy in the entire industry. It's that simple. The story that they have been telling for damn near the past year has got up to this point, to the point where you have a star in the making. And this is what we all wanted. Sami Zayn is going to get his moment at the Elimination Chamber. But let's be honest. He's going to lose at in the pay-per-view. He's going to lose against Roman Reigns. But they're going to make him look so fucking strong that it's going to be very tough to not stand beside him. That's how over this man is. WWE has done a very, very, very good job of keeping Sami super over, but at the same time, keeping Cody relevant as well. And you got to commend the current regime for that. Tomorrow night is going to be a show for the ages. Not really a show for the ages. Let's be honest. The only match we're excited about is Roman and Sami. But Roman and Sami itself is going to be a special match for the ages that we are going to be talking about for years to come. It is not only going to be a banger match. It is going to be a full story-driven match with Roman Reigns entering a hostile environment and Sami Zayn having the home field advantage. That's the beauty of tomorrow night's main event, and I'm very excited about that match. This was my SmackDown review from February 17th, 2023. Overall, thought this was a pretty fun show for what it was. Nothing really special. Again, the main thing was Sami Zayn, and that is it. And, of course, the craziness between Tony Khan and Ariel Helwani. But overall, this was a relatively good show, and I'm very much excited for the Elimination Chamber show tomorrow night. Of course, tomorrow, be on the lookout for episode 8 of the WrestleHavoc podcast, in which I will be talking about Kenny Omega. Is he possibly going to WWE? We got other stuff with the AEW ratings. We're going to be talking about that as well. We got a lot of things to talk about tomorrow on episode 8 of the WrestleHavoc podcast. But the main thing that we are going to be talking about is our preview and predictions for tomorrow night's Elimination Chamber pay-per-view. So be on the lookout for episode 8 of the WrestleHavoc podcast. But as always, please like, subscribe, comment down below, push that bell for notifications, and be on the lookout for more videos right here on the WrestleHavoc podcast, right here on YouTube, in which we discuss everything in and outside of the squared circle. Make sure to like and subscribe for more content. And as the frickin' referee would say, ring, ring, ring that damn bell for more notifications. But as always, it is Flamin' Rick from the WrestleHavoc podcast, signing out. See you guys later.